Um, Given your time, did you have was it an announcement that you wanted to make, Timo, before we get started, or?
Yeah. I definitely don't want to sidetrack your scheduled programming here, but I'm sure some of you have already got your basin tokens, and other people are on the list to get them. And I'm obviously tweeting and shilling like I normally do on it, but I just wanted to send an offer out to the Regen community, the Regen network peeps. One, expressing gratitude for the last year, 2 years of working with all of you. And I'm excited to see where all this goes. I know we're all having, road bumps and obstacles and challenges and heartburn and, but there's also exciting, exhilarating, super fun stuff coming. The potential is still there, obviously. But just as a token of appreciation, no pun intended, we have launched the Basin Token collection on Polygon. We have almost 500 basins minted, and I just want to send an offer out to everyone here on this call, or who's listening, or if you want to shill it in your Discord or whatnot. You can go to our beta version, which has there's a lot more coming, and it's it's still clunky and messy at this point because we're testing and iterating. But you can go to beta.basin.global, and there's just a button at the top. It says Get Basin, and you can just fill out that form and pick your basically your username, and that will get you a free basin. And then it will also ask you for a latitude and longitude of a space of a place that's important to you, that's meaningful to you, that you don't mind being linked to, because it will be kind of shared publicly. Of like you will actually become a steward of that place, that latitude and longitude, and then that place will also be a basin token. So that's without going into the details, I'm happy to answer questions, give you an overview of kind of what we're thinking, how it's organized, the functionality that's coming. But yeah, I'm super excited about it. I think it's really powerful for a lot of the stuff we've all talked about, over the last year, several years, and it also has a real estate component. So that's under the hood, and but I'm happy to go over that as well. So just want to say thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Timo. It's great to see just all the work that you all have done to bring this about, and congratulations. Super excited to see these iterations moving out in the world, and especially making it feel really grounded. Literally, it's connected to, temporal places, and that's really awesome. Wishing you lots of luck, hoping it goes well, and fully in support. So thanks for the gift. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We could do, if there are any other announcements before we jump in. Happy to hear from anybody else. Um,
Yeah, I'll
and
just make a quick one and then we can jump into the program. But just next week, and I believe we might even be doing this on Thursday, the Refi Gratitude campaign is launching. And I think it actually launches today, where you can twin mint NFT and give one as a thank you to somebody who's really been meaningful for you or your work this past year. It's a project of Loa Labs and Refi DAO. Yeah, and it's just meant to, frankly, just spread the attitude of gratitude. So the team's been working super hard at knocking out some bugs and getting the minting feature up and ready today. And then next week, we're going to spend I think every day of the week, we'll have a little bit of time dedicated for people just to come up and give thanks and share appreciation and really close out really meaningful. And I think, I mean, the cliche is a historical year, but it really has been quite a powerful year for everyone who's been building in really tough conditions. And but still, I think as we all are driven by something far deeper than what the market says is right, or what strength is defined by. So anyhow, there's a lot of people to give thanks to. So we'll be doing that. Stay tuned for details and announcements related to that. But I think we might be going live today. So just tracking real time. So look out for that. But all next week is we'll have hour long, or at least a half hour long gratitude sessions and sharing of holiday cheer.
sweet, Dave. That's awesome. Thanks. much appreciated balance of energy and feel. So thank you. As a last announcement, we have, we're closing out our community fund, our grants program year, and a lot of work has been done, and lots of different kinds of work out there in the world. And in January, we'll be sharing out a kind of a roundup of all of that work and links out to things that are happening in the new year with that, and the different kind of outputs, so the methodologies or the tech features, things like that. So look forward to that coming out in January as well. And a big thanks, Timo here and others that have been a part of that. So look forward to that. But let's jump in. This is about registry. So we've got the team here. Sam, Tika, Ned. All we're lacking is Giselle, but this is a nice moment, I think, to take a deep breath and to share with you all kind of where we are, and if potentially like upgrade everybody as to like what we're even talking about when we're talking about what Regen Registry is. And I think it would be cool to take a moment for each of us in the team to share kind of like a bit about ourselves, so that we have a human dimension to all of this work that we're doing too. So kind of the flow from here on out is that bit of intro, and then moving into Tika's going to share about some of the methodologies that are upcoming, their public comment periods. So we have some like real opportunities to chew on these methodologies and to think about these credits coming on chain in 23. So super awesome to be sharing that. And then the things to look forward to in 23 around community, the ways that we want to create more dialogue, more occasion to jump into conversations and to work on methodologies in different ways. So we'll be digging into that too. And then obviously time for questions. So let's start out by just talking about Regen Registry. It's certainly shape-shifted a bit over time, as we respond to what is real out there in terms of needs and blockers that people experience, and trying to create genuine credits based on ecological regeneration. And so Regen Registry is a kind of a few different elements, and I'd love for others from the team to pipe into on their iterations of it. But Regen Registry is the pathways and guardrails for the creation of eco credits, and those eco credits can reflect anything from attestations of carbon sequestration, of ecosystem services, and really everywhere in between, to allow really the vision of a decentralized registry program that's owned and driven by the community, a community of experts, community of practitioners, those that are doing the work and are committed to ecological regeneration. And so our role to play is in building enough of that infrastructure to enable creative, innovative, really like the full spectrum of eco credits that could exist for the world's needs at this moment. So as a team, we all hold a lot of different pieces of that. So in going around, I feel like it'd be great to share from each of us kind of the why, the things that are moving us right now, or what we're really excited about. And so in that way, I'll start by sharing that I'm really excited about two particular things. One is I'm excited about realizing pieces of the kind of the vision around engagement and governance that is going to happen in 23. And that means creating space for us to meet. That means, creating groups that start to make decisions amongst themselves, and how all of that starts to feed and build momentum. So I'm super excited about that. I'm also super excited about the science work being done around ecological regeneration that Ned's kind of stirring the pot on, because that's something that my heart wants. So I'm excited for that. So with that, I want to be able to toss it around between Tika, Sam, and Ned. And then from there, Tika, if you want to take it for talking about the upcoming methodologies. So let me get Ned up here too. Ned, I just invited you to speak. So maybe let's do Sam, Ned, and then Tika so that you can roll into methodologies.
Cool. Thanks, Becca, for facilitating everything. Super good to be here. It's good to see some familiar faces out in the audience. Yeah, so I guess just to kind of talk about, I think it'd be nice to highlight some of the successes of the registry over the last year, and then start to talk a little bit about this idea of, kind of progressive decentralization of the registry. And so, just jumping back to, December of last year, this was the time that we were actually putting out the governance proposal for the Regen Registry to be the first credit class creator on Regen Ledger, meaning that the Regen Registry now has the ability to create credit classes on behalf of the community. And so over the course of the last year, we've really been focused on engaging with our first, few groups of credit methodology designers in creating a suite of different ecological assets that some focus on carbon, some are focused on environmental stewardship, in writing their own methodologies and developing their own programs that engage the community around kind of, valuing ecological state. And we're getting to a really exciting point where a lot of these methodologies are going through peer review. The credit classes are being wrapped up in their design process. And then the first half of this year, we'll see, anywhere between 6 and 8 credit classes be instantiated on chain, which is super exciting. And so, I just want to highlight that the team has done a really great job. There's been a lot of great engagement from the community on helping appreciate the design of these credit classes, thinking about the registry program guide, and really challenging, some of the ideas that we historically had on, what the design should be, to make it more focused on community engagement. And so I think the things that I'm really excited about in the coming year are, really being able to appreciate the design of the registry program, in rapidly engaging our community of academic researchers, technologists, climate entrepreneurs, land stewards, and using the tools that we're releasing and kind of using to start to govern different elements of the registry program. And, Gregory, some people on the foundation, and myself had a really interesting call last week about defining the registry. And one big question that came up is, is the registry organization an entity, or is it kind of a system of different functions that all work together to create credits and environmental assets and really engage the community in valuing ecological state at more of a community level? And for me, it's almost more of the latter, where if you think about all the different functions like scientific peer review or financialization of assets or design of credit classes, each element requires engagement from a different group of stakeholders. And what I'm really excited about in the coming year is, being able to start using the groups module, which we're going to be releasing with Regen Ledger 5.0 to govern, the credit class creation address, to govern credit class administration, to govern credit class issuance, to set up groups that organize project development processes and peer review processes, and then simultaneously using platforms like Commonwealth and Hilo, which we have kind of taken a back seat until recently, in providing platforms by which the community can engage in dialogue around these processes. So those are some of the things that I'm really excited about. And with that, maybe I'll pass it on to Ned or Tika, whoever else wants to jump in.
I want to be able to just enjoy how full that was. Like that just felt like a full cup of coffee that we were just given. So thanks, Sam. All right, off to you, Ned.
I guess I can jump in. Uh, so yeah, I'm not even sure where to start. It's been kind of a whirlwind tour this year, and it's I think we're really building up momentum, and for me, that's the most exciting part, to see that things are starting to take shape, and that credits are going to be coming on chain, and especially I mean, my focus has been the environmental stewardship stuff, and I'm really happy to see that taking shape. I think we still have a lot of work to go. It's a type of innovation that really hasn't been done before, and I'm sure we're in for some surprises coming up. Trying to prepare for those as best I can. And coming into the new year, I'm hoping to start on a project to really better understand what this kind of ecosystem regeneration space looks like. Who's doing what, where, what practices are they using, what are the outcomes, which outcomes work, which ones don't, where are the gaps, where do we need more data, trying to answer a lot of those questions. And if anybody knows anything about graph databases, that's the approach that I'm going to be taking. And I'll be, once I get things going, once things get going in January, I'll probably be asking for some community support if people are interested. We're certainly happy to have people join. We are going to be working with an intern for a few months, which will help a lot. And then, just generally people on the team. But this is, I'm going to be taking off for a couple of weeks. So before I go, gratitude out to the team. I mean, I'm really honored to be able to be a part of this kind of registry and science team. We're a small group, 5 people, but I think we're doing really good work. We're working our butts off, really, and it's just nice to see that we're getting results. And I think this coming year is that's just going to be magnified. We'll have some really good stuff coming up. So that's it for me.
It goes both ways, Ned. Thanks for that. Tika, it's all you.
Yeah, definitely echo my teammates. Huge appreciation for each other and our greater community that have pioneered this pathway with us in 2022 of designing a really rigorous process of review and bringing these projects to the point that they are, with some entering public comment soon, which is really exciting. And in 2023, super excited to see the realization of these credits on chain and just kind of see that energy circulate back into the hands of the earth stewards, and the ability to build on these initiatives, foster continued conversations on platforms like Hilo that will really exponentially increase the development of more methodologies and therefore regenerative land practices, which is our end goal here. So super excited about all of that. And yeah, very grateful to my coworkers. It's always a good day with the team at Regen. So with that, I'll kind of jump into some of the methodologies that are entering public comment in January, which is really exciting. And we'll have some links to those on a Notion page, and the Gitbook will be the place to see that, and in our methodology library. So that will all be coming live in January. And the first one will be Colshin, who has an appendix for in-stand surface application of biochar in forest lands. This is an appendix to the methodology for biochar utilization in soil and non-soil applications by Vera. And the project allows for in-stand surface level application that minimizes carbon emissions from production and transport. And it has co-benefits of improved soil health, microbial activity, and plant growth. So they're in their initial pilot phase, which uses conservation burn techniques to produce biochar in slash piles as feedstock. And they have some images of that they'll be updating on their Built on Regen page. The second phase is using kilns to produce biochar with greater efficiency, using clean construction and demolition waste and agricultural waste as feedstocks. And then the third phase of the project will see forestry / gathered into piles designed for biochar production that will result in higher yields compared to burning of traditional / piles. So that's all happening right now, which is really exciting. And they're posting some great burn pictures and sending this to us. So look for those on our feeds. Ecometric is a soil organic carbon estimation in regenerative cropping and managed grassland ecosystems. They're using remotely sensed imagery and soil samples to monitor change, looking at SOC stocks and CO2 equivalents primarily as ecological health indicators. And they work in primarily in the UK. But also in Australasia, other parts of Europe. So they're expanding pretty rapidly and working as project developers with their methodology that's going to be headed into public comment in January as well. And then our 2023 pipeline is just a really awesome, diverse group of high quality credits coming online. They've all gone through our rigorous internal review, expert peer review, and public comment process. And so Q1 will be ERA Brazil biodiversity credits. These are based in Brazil. Courageous Land is also based in Brazil, and our agroforestry credits. And then throughout the year, we'll have Undo, which is enhanced rock weathering, with the pilots based in the UK. Fibershed that Ned's been working super closely with, which is really exciting. Our environmental stewardship based credit, which is a kilo sheep hour credit, and they're based, in Northern California. Open Earth Foundation with their marine ecosystem credit, pilots based in Costa Rica. Earth Bank has a forestry credit. Terra Genesis is agroforestry and environmental conservation credits based in Ecuador in the larger Amazon to Andes basin. Roots is holistic grazing with pilots based in Argentina. Moss Earth is deforestation, credits based in Brazil, and they'll have also biodiversity and a number of other credits coming online. And then Climate Farmers is regenerative ag based in EU. So that's been keeping the five of us really busy getting all of this moving and doing it in a way that we're working to have this whole process transparent. So working with our software engineers to develop all those pathways. It's been super exciting.
But I love hearing all of that just in a list, because normally when we're talking about it internally, we're talking about one or two, but hearing all of it together, that's a list to be proud of for
So
sure. I
epic.
wonder, Tika, because you've been so epic. Yes, absolutely. I wonder if we're thinking about appreciating the design of the registry, and Tika, you've been working so closely with these folks. What are some things that you feel like have already been appreciated about what we've put into place so far? And then what are the things that, that you feel and that we've talked about, that are areas for us to really grow into?
Yeah, so and also this list, there's more, and that would be more of Becca's area and Giselle, who's not here, with her Carbon Plus Grasslands and all the folks that are kind of following on the coattails of that development, which is in expert peer review right now. So more to come. And I would say, the process that we have really focused on is this so far is this internal expert and public comment review process, and just working on really documenting that process so that we can share it once the project is registered on their page for folks to see everything that these amazing project developers have gone through to really prove integrity of their credits. And moving forward, I think that I know, Becca, working closely with you to develop the high-low spaces that will encourage conversation around these processes and how they happen and what can change. So really excited to have the community be a part of that. And then moving on to project plan, project registration, credit issuance. So that's a big piece that will be happening for all these folks early in 2023. And then, yeah, I think the other piece is just feedback on our guide, which we've been developing that helps people move through all of these parts of our system and how that's designed, how it's speaking to different audiences globally, and keeping that in mind, all the backgrounds of the folks that are looking to engage with us and what they're coming with and all that variety. So excited for community input on that.
Yeah, it's great. And I see, Gregory, you've got a question. This is really interesting to think about how these different lanes are moving, and they're all moving forward, and they're, interconnecting in different ways and really pointing towards a lot of things kind of happening at once, like when these credits come on, and as we're building the community layers and figuring out, more around kind of scientific needs. It's just a lot to look forward to. It feels.
Yeah,
Gregory, what you
so
got?
exciting. So exciting. So my question is just, I mean, it's so, there's so much that goes into this. There's so many layers of community, of science, of technology, of economics. And I know that there's been some conversation about the possibility of evolving a cohort model or a season model where there's sort of groups of people who are going through a process together and both able to engage with the registry team and other community members as in a discrete cycle as a cohort. And I was wondering if you could share a little bit more about that idea.
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit. So we kind of in the last few months in trying to work through the challenges of balancing the needs of many different stakeholders with a pretty small team, decided to pull on some of the foundation ideas and at least internally start thinking about kind of a cohort model where looking at who is where in the process of getting credits on chain. We would start to kind of create these groups that we would be internally focused on pushing through together. And I think, at least from my perspective, there's a lot of opportunity there to start to facilitate inter-organization collaboration around credit class design, methodology design, peer review, public comment, all those things. And I guess just jumping back to Becca's original question about, what are some of the things that we've learned or over the last few months, or what are some of the things that we've identified as needing to improve is, a lot of this process has been new for everyone. We're building an entirely new registry, and we've gotten a lot of kind of user feedback from each of these groups of, questions on how to design a methodology, how to design a credit class, how to balance create a market accepted credit versus meeting community needs. And a lot of questions are oftentimes shared between groups. And so the things that I'm hoping to see in the coming year is as we start to build out these high-low platforms, getting groups that are kind of on a similar timeline or within that same quote unquote cohort to be working together to ask questions between one another of like, hey, how did you design your credit class? How are you thinking about permanence here? Or, just any shared questions that they might have so that our internal team can start taking more of a backseat approach in answering some of these questions, walking them through, creating kind of community calls around designing certain elements. And I think that idea of a cohort is still being defined and still in an exploratory process. But I think that there's a lot of potential there to, like I said, facilitate inter-organization collaboration.
When I would be able to add to that too, it's something really simple that I think occurs in that model is like the relationships, the trust and the depth of connection that then I think really touches on what we hope Regen Registry is set apart from others, that it is based on investment in communities and investment in relationships that I think will propel all of this forward in a different way. Good question. Gregory, did you have anything else on
That was
that front?
great. Yeah, that was great. Yeah, I just felt like that was a cool opportunity to just talk about, what I've heard you all. I'm privileged to get to hear you guys talk internally sometimes about your learning process, and it felt like that was something that's sort of like emerging as an opportunity. So yeah, I'm excited about that edge, and yeah, thanks for sharing, Sam and Becca.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a good segue into some other things we wanted to be sharing about around community and a few of us have mentioned Hilo, and for those of you that are here, Hilo is a social platform that's created for intentional community collaboration, and it's meant to be a platform that is not as noisy and in your face and kind of obstructive as a lot of others. So it's based on the pro-social core work that is around building thriving, autonomous communities. And so we work closely with the Terran team around the Hilo platform and are going to be using it really wholeheartedly starting in January in creating really like a lively structure and places to gather and speak and share questions and start to put us all into the right smaller micro communities, the kind of nested communities around different topics that are of interest, so that somebody could come in and they could find, oh, I'm interested in biodiversity, and oh, within biodiversity I'm also interested in this this other topic, and be able to create that community online that also sits next to the different calls that we have. So I think some of those groups are going to take shape more like kind of a targeted working group around putting out a specific methodology, and then some of those groups being more organic, where they're exploring something more loosely, or they're trying to figure out kind of what players are involved, and for that to be, in a lot of ways, the gathering place for registry, and hoping that we can build that out, not just with kind of our hopes in mind, but getting feedback from you all, from those that want to use it and engage with us and engage with each other. So that's something to look forward to, and that touches on the different functionality that will be available around the groups module that Sam was alluding to. So kind of what infrastructure can we put into place that allows groups to form, and then for there to be an ability to have some sort of governance around them, and processes around those groups, to manage a budget, or to make decisions around things as a group. So that's all being put into place really intentionally starting in January. That we're all kind of holding different pieces of and trying to make right. So know that we're very open to your feedback and your input, and always your involvement. The other kind of pieces around community too are how we can better share what is going on at the registry, because we so oftentimes have our head quite deep down in the sand trying to get it done, and we realize that people want to be along this journey with us, and that we need to be able to share like what we're exploring and what questions we have, or what it is that we're working on now. So that's going to take form. We're looking at having a newsletter that's going to be a way to share what's moving, share what is events are upcoming. Maybe it's the environmental stewardship call. Maybe it's the public comment period coming up for a particular methodology, and having just better touch points for folks to know what is going on, and then to have that also accompany different, calls that we've set up. We're looking with foundation folks, or we have a lot of shared partners to have some sort of community touch point call where you come in and we can have announcements and shares, and then maybe like hop into different breakout rooms where maybe our community manager Sari would like talk about tokens for newcomers, and maybe another room that would share about the CS DAO program or something like that. So we're really actively exploring how to um, to have connections with you all. So look forward to that, and do offer feedback on your needs. And I see like Austin and Will are out there too. So if you guys have anything to add to that, or that accompanies that, and Tika, yeah, what you got?
Yeah, I just thought that was a nice segue to Gregory's inquiry on the cohorts. When I think about the cohorts, I guess my one sort of red flag or concern is is it end up being sort of a group that seems exclusive, or hey, I missed out, or is it something that's motivating? Yeah, I want to be in part of the next cohort. So I think there's a few dimensions to that word and that way of organizing that are exciting to explore. And I think this is so important to have the high-low working group and space develop in parallel with that, just to address some of those dimensions that can come along with the word cohort, or creating working groups and then having others feel, oh, I'm not part of that, or how do I join, or yeah, I'm really excited to be a part of the next one, or what. So just some thoughts around that.
I'm glad you shared that. Yeah, because I feel like that's just really important to hold moving through, so that people don't feel um, on the sidelines. Thanks for sharing that. I feel like with 15 minutes left, let's get some questions going from you all out there. I definitely see some familiar faces with Justin and Digimo and some others. So if you guys have questions, just raise your hand and we can move through. We've got Ed too, always some great insight there. Austin, Will, anything emerging for anybody? Now's the time. Looks like we've got somebody coming up. Go for it, Austin. Like good old connection time. It takes a minute. You're up as soon as you're good, Austin.
Yeah. Hi everybody. It's kind of crazy how the Twitter Spaces like blocks out your mic or your speakers right when like you need to be hearing. It's kind of a fail. I was just going to respond to and kind of get extra enthusiastic about the cohort model and maybe unpack a little bit about what Tika said, that builds off of what other registry folks are saying, and that if the sort of intended concept around the broader Regen network is a notion of progressive decentralization of its different functions to be owned and governed by the community it serves, that there's an interesting opportunity made possible that we could talk about maybe through a pro-social lens, and I'm really excited to hear about it in build on high-low too, but the premise that a cohort can also be stewards to subsequent ones, that as part of the progressive decentralization model that the Regen network is building, that each cohort is able to be kind of a cohesive group to help facilitate others in the door and for them to learn the ropes. And that process being really powerful in allowing the community to be able to sort of expand the community on its own terms in this progressive decentralizing way. So I'm really excited about this idea of the cohort, and really excited about how cohort 1 can support cohort 2 and onwards in this like kind of beautiful network diagram. That's it.
Heard loud and clear. Thanks, Austin. Tika, Sam, Ned, do you guys want to respond to that at all before we take another question?
No, I think that was well said.
Yeah, totally. And for those of you who know Austin, he directs the CS DAO program at Regen Foundation. So he's really speaking from his experience and seeing how that unfolds within a group. So I'm really, really glad to hear that. Yeah, let's get CTB. What question do you have?
How you doing, all? I'm coming at this from, work for a healthcare company in New York. I basically recently spoke to my facility planning. I don't represent them. I'm just coming on to ask the question about, timeline about what I'm about to ask, just to get a sense of where you are in the development. Obviously, I listen to these every once in a while. I have been busy. I missed the last probably 2 months of these, but my question, just to cut to the chase, is like I'm with a company that I'm looking at their dashboard right now. They've planted 460,000 trees over the last 3 years. Are you folks going to be buying plots of land and then selling the land to like companies like mine in the future? To then plant trees to create carbon credit, reduction emissions or something like that. Just an idea to share with you, and also knowing New York has really strict laws going in place later in the 2020s. Is this region network going to be able to handle? My company needed to buy or plant trees for 200,000 carbon, tons of carbon emissions in 2020. Like, is there going to be any kind of scale of carbon credits available for some massive company like mine that's going to be able to leverage the blockchain here? Just getting a sense, is this like 2 years down the road, 7 years down the road? Any kind of feedback I'm looking for on those two questions.
Cool. Yeah, I'll speak to the first one, and then I'll pass it so someone else's voice can be heard on the latter. So, we are not in the business of buying land. What our role is to kind of facilitate a group, a community that wants to create eco credits from that land. So, let's say a company or group comes in and they want to regenerate that land or support its continuation. Then you would explore, maybe it's a forestry credit that you would be creating based off of carbon being sequestered in that above ground biomass and soil. So that's how that would be approached. And in terms of scale of carbon credits, I feel like Gregory can hop in on that one.
Yeah, and just so you don't even need to wait 2 years to buy 200,000 tons of carbon offsets. You could do that this year or next year. So, that's a present moment, sort of operating at that level. I think next year, already in the pipeline, there's several million credits coming on board. And if companies like yours have yearly reoccurring appetite and would like to get into forward contracts with great projects, that's a really fantastic way to both guarantee your supply and prices and also help support really amazing regenerative projects, whether those are things like reforestation, like you're talking about, or choosing a more diverse basket of different credit types.
I have a meeting with our consultant who is working facility planning in the next month or so. Holiday slows things down a little bit. I'm going to ask them some general questions about what we're doing. So then, they're healthcare is slow moving, so they're not going to jump onto this, next year or the year after. They're probably not going to be the first one into doing something like this. But the consultant who has pull on our senior leadership to make decisions, if the consultant can be educated, so eventually you might see another person on here that's a consultant who's already buying and selling carbon credits for large companies in New York. Maybe, obviously he'll be the right person to influence our senior leadership here. But I'm just more interested as a third party right now. But I do bring home whatever you say here. I talk about with this facilities guy. Obviously, I'm not a facilities guy. I'm just an accountant who happens to deal with the grants and foundation work. So I know about this stuff indirectly. So I'm always curious. So thank you for taking the question and taking the time to explain it.
Yeah, exciting.
Yeah, thanks for joining. I believe, Dijma, you had a thought that you wanted to share. The stage is yours.
Hello. Yes, real quick, just updating in public, I guess. Demeter had a consultation with Will Gardner as per Gregory and Ryan's suggestion to connect with them. And then we ended up having another big meeting with Ryan as well. That was like almost 2-hour meeting. It appears that the immediate opportunity for the Filecoin grant that we have and that we would love to collaborate with Regen Network is to prototype, sort of get a bit of a proof of concept for the IRI process for the data module for IPFS. So maybe this could be an experimental methodology or a registry process, let's say Sylvie, for example, or some agroforestry framework, but leveraging IPFS data storage for the anchoring of data and things like that. So yeah, we will be on a time constraint though, because we'll need to make some decisions probably by early to mid-January. But I did want to relay the message to all, and hopefully there is something there that sticks for this collaboration to take off. Thank you.
Just curious, before we move on, what sort of things are you missing, or do you need to inform the decision by early January? Like, what are the specific either conversations or commitments that you need to be clear about what makes sense?
Yeah, Ryan said he would take this to Aaron. I am meeting Paul Wiedner, excuse me, later today as well, just to understand. But there is basically a couple of things. One is there's a little bit of translation needed between the terminology of the way we've placed the claim resolution process, so things like claims versus states, etc. There's a ton of opportunity on the attestation, because the main innovation that our framework brings is potential for like compute over data or logic on attestation and things like that. And we're trying to figure what's a priority for now. I feel like the priorities right now are just the schematics, making sure that all the standards are aligned, and then moving into actual IPFS implementation, which we could call it a part of integration for our grant, and for which we might have $15,000 to $20,000 to spend on that. We were hoping actually to invite devs who've worked on Regen Network, like Will Gardiner, to help facilitate some of that. But as of right now, it's mostly just Ryan taking this up to Aaron or the rest of the team and confirming if this was an interest. Ryan did mention that that you were already looking to implement with IPFS. It was just a question of when.
Yeah, I can.
Definitely.
Oh, go for it, Gregory.
No, please, Sam. You're better to talk about this than me.
Yeah, I could speak to that a little bit. I mean, in terms of desired integrations with IPFS, I think that there's a huge desire there. I will say that our internal team hasn't necessarily been thinking about the data storage element quite as much, or like direct integrations with IPFS. And so, yeah, like, I mean, the work that Paul and Will over at Cambium have done with setting up resolvers for the data module have been great. And, we have the ability to anchor data on chain, but in terms of decentralized storage, using something like IPFS is super desirable. So if you guys are working on that and need like use cases, or want to talk through what sort of data we're thinking about, in the short term versus long term, storing with something like IPFS or Filecoin Green, just let us know.
Awesome. Yeah, we were given some example repos for like the credit classes, just to make sure that a lot of this is compatible from a hashing and string perspective. But we're still looking to identify that case study, and it might be some type of Sylvie forward experiment or an agroforestry experiment or something like that. We'll keep you posted, but I just wanted to update you all since you're all in the call. Thanks, everybody. Thanks
so much.
Yeah, thanks for the update. That's really exciting. I'm glad you have gotten the right connections in place. I was recently with Paul at a conference, and we were talking a bit more about the data use cases and the needs for storage in different circumstances. So thanks for that. As a way to close out here, I'd like to put the rest of the team on the spot and have everybody share what they're most proud of from this past year. Give us a sense of like ending the year and starting a new one. I think for myself, I'm most proud of if we're looking at the first credits and methodologies that are coming, that the balance of different types, and that was largely led by like intuition, And I think that's something to be really proud of. So I want to pass it and put everybody else on the spot. So Sam, Tika, Ned, what are you guys most proud of from this past year?
For me, it's just the fact that we have a bunch of credit classes and methodologies coming on this year. I mean, just to speak to timelines, like we didn't. It was December last year when I think we were in conversations with a few groups, and what I would say is like the ideation stage of just like we identified what the project should be. We identified the fact that we should be developing a methodology and a new credit class, and that we didn't want to use something that already exists out there. And the fact that we were able to put together not one, but like 6 to 8 methodologies and credit classes in the last year is pretty incredible. So
totally. Ned, Tika?
I can go quick. I just am constantly amazed by the high integrity of the folks that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and how excited they are and willing they are, and what a high priority it is for them to do this in a really well done manner. So really excited to have that come to fruition for them.
Yeah, that's a great one. Ned, what about you?
Yeah, my phone just started acting weird, so I'm not sure. Hopefully, this is getting through all right. But I mean, for me, one of the things is just my community, my colleagues, my peers from my sort of previous life in biodiversity conservation research. They're starting to get it. When I talked to them, last year a year ago when I was talking to them, they had no idea what I was doing. And now they've got an idea, and a lot of them are thinking it's kind of cool, and they want to kind of participate in some of this. So I'm curious to see where that goes in the next year, but it's nice. It just makes me feel good that people I used to work with are kind of getting behind some of this work, which I think is really important as well.
It's awesome, Ned. I'm sure that must feel good too. Feel seen. Thanks, guys, and thanks to everybody. I do want to give a last shout out to Kyle. Kyle, I see you in the audience, and I want to let everybody know that I learned a lot about Kyle's research. He's doing a lot of research related to pollinators and tracking them, and using lasers to figure out the wing beats that can be associated with specific pollinator species. And it's just somebody doing some really great science work out there in the world. So shout out to you, Kyle. And thank you all, everybody, for coming and being on this journey with us. Thanks to the team. You guys are the best. And I'll see you all the next time. Take care, everybody.